What's up? It's Takashi with Cactus Warehouse, and today we secured an interview with Tom from Waterwise. That's right, if you want a video where there's just a wealth of knowledge and a bunch of cool things to learn about cacti, succulents, and plants, well, just watch this video. Okay, so let's get into this interview. I'm here with Tom. Why don't you just start off by introducing yourself to the audience?
Howdy there, I'm Tom Jesch, and I'm the founder and manager of Waterwise Botanicals. We're here in Bonsall, California today, and it's a beautiful day. This is the kind of day that folks dream about. Exactly. And I'm stuck in the middle of fields of flowers and cactus and succulents and gardens. It's a rough life.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And Tom, I guess I want to give the viewers an idea of who you are. So tell us about your business, how you got started with cacti, and all of that good stuff.
It's kind of a scary story. See, I started out as a child.
Like we all do.
And I grew up between Reno and Lake Tahoe, in the foothills of the Sierras, and we hiked constantly. Also, my little mama was an avid gardener.
Okay.
So I was young, and she influenced me to really enjoy living things.
Okay.
Especially the plants and flowers of her garden and stuff like that. So I kind of got into that. But you know, we were country kids, and country kids are tough. Mm-hmm. And we'd go into school with the city kids, and you know, we had a reputation to uphold, and you can't exactly just walk in and say, man, you ought to see how my pansies are doing today. So I wanted something a little more macho. And in the foothills, there was a cactus growing, a little cactus called a porcupine cactus, and it had yellow flowers. And I was just so enthralled with that for several reasons. It was kind of a harbinger of spring plant. In the wintertime, it would literally just collapse. It would dump all of the moisture and water out of its tissues, lay down flat, look like it was dead, and wrinkle all up. And then as spring started to approach, those little pads would just swell back up with water. It would stand up straight, and little buds would start forming in late February, March. Like I said, just like the daffodils are a harbinger of spring.
How old were you when you discovered this?
Oh, like I said, just like 6 years old, 8
6 years old, and you were just like fascinated
with it?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, so, I kind of got excited about that. And then, you know, we lived out in the country. There's ranches and things like that. So we were gainfully employed. I had money. And so I would earn some money, and I'd go into town, and there was just a very small availability of cactus at stores. Like there was one company down here in Vista that had planted little cactus in basically plaster of Paris. Looked like cement, but they had lots of different varieties. So I just started buying them, and so I started collecting those and had this little collection going. We had this downstairs basement window, and or big downstairs basement that had morning sun windows, so I could actually grow indoors.
Okay.
Because it gets to be 20, 30 degrees below zero in the wintertime.
Oh, wow.
In that climate.
Super cold.
So I had my little collection going, and I was financing it, and I became more and more interested in it as I went. This was all kind of started by that native cactus in the foothills, and I was just kind of, buying recreationally. I mean, it wasn't like I was, had a bad habit or anything. I could stop anytime I wanted, but I'd earn some money and go into town and buy a few more cactus, and this kept going until pretty soon I filled up our whole basement. It was huge, and I had all these hundreds and hundreds of plants, and I thought, I didn't have a problem. But one day I came home from school, and my whole family was sitting on the couch with their arms crossed, and they were going to have an intervention. And my dad told me I had a problem, and
really,
he threw me out of the house.
Really?
Well, he threw the cactus out of the house.
Okay.
And so he said, here's the deal. He said, you and I will build a greenhouse, but you got to pay for the fuel oil to heat it in the wintertime. I thought, well, that's pretty cool. So we built a greenhouse, and I took my whole collection out into the greenhouse, and I earned more money and paid for the fuel oil. People are going to be just, really relating to this. Diesel was almost 21 cents a gallon in those days. It was rugged.
What year was this? I don't mean to date things, but yeah, when was this?
We would be going back to the 60s,
Okay.
roughly. So anyway, so like, you know, became an avid collector. Actually, the newspaper came out and did an article on me and said this kid has the largest cactus collection in Nevada.
Really?
Of course, at that time, only about 12 people lived in Nevada. So
still, number one.
You could get your article in the paper for almost anything. And but then that passion kind of grew to where I started working at retail nurseries.
Okay.
At the ripe old age of about 15 years old, and I became assistant manager at a retail nursery in town in Reno. And I had exposure to the big nurseries of California.
Okay.
Because we bought from them. And so one of these times the rep came in and just said, well, you know, why don't you, if you're interested when you grow up, why don't you come down to our nursery in Santa Ana and see if they'd like to have you grow cactus and succulents there, do a program. And if I did that, that would really be the first commercial growing of cactus and succulents at scale.
Wow.
So I thought, yeah, I'm the smartest human being in the whole world. At the age of 17, I really thought I was smart. And so I got an appointment with Bud Hines of Hines Wholesale Nursery and came down, had my big appointment, and I told him all these things that I just thought were amazing. And he wasn't really the businessman of the partnership that owned the two, so he hired me. And I did get this opportunity to grow ultimately about 11 acres of cactus and succulents, kind of the first real scaled operation of growing those plants. You couldn't give them away in California. They weren't popular. You could show somebody the fanciest ruffled echeveria in California and people were snooty. They just go, I don't like jade plants. And so all of our crop really shipped pretty much by air container back to New Jersey, New York, the Eastern Seaboard, stuff like that. But it was a very successful program.
Nice.
And we grew millions of plants.
Wow.
And it turned out to be the highest profit center per square foot of the entire 600-acre nursery. Wow. So I was given this tremendous opportunity to step into the industry commercially. My goal was to become a millionaire by the time I was in my mid-20s, go back and buy me a 200-acre ranch, and spend the rest of my life hunting, fishing, and painting. Mm-hmm. And so I'm only about 50 years behind schedule and a couple $100,000 in the hole, but I'm almost there. I'm almost right there.
Well, you know what that means. You guys got to buy some cactus from Waterwise. So, but so then tell me about the transition from that into, I guess, moving to California and then starting your own thing here.
Well, I had already moved to California to do that. So I was in California. And then I was actually supposed to, with Hines of that very, very large nursery company, they were going to buy a facility up in Oregon.
Okay.
And so I had a chance to go look at a 200-acre facility in Oregon. And then company politics and everything, I got my butt fired. I was a good boy. I didn't do anything wrong. But nonetheless, it happens. And so I got immediately hired by some investors who wanted to start a propagation nursery here in Vista.
Okay.
And the only problem with that is all the investors were attorneys. So as soon as we got started and all the promises were made, they just spent the next 6 years suing each other. And I didn't get paid most of those 6 years. But you know what? Hardship is a good school. Mm-hmm. And after that, I went into business for myself. I did landscaping, had some very small areas I could grow plants in, did that for a while. Then I bought a retail nursery in Fallbrook and ran that for a few years and managed to go bust on that. See, I'm a very successful person. And then I worked for some other corporate nurseries, village nurseries. I was given the opportunity to build a facility down, a 200-acre facility down in, 80-acre. I'm an exaggerator. I got to watch that. 80-acre facility down in Del Mar.
Okay.
And we grew trees and things like that. And then I finally moved on back to my own business. And then after that, I was a really sweet person that I met when I was at Hines Nursery, a young couple who were the Altman family.
Okay.
And Mr. Altman came and asked me if I wanted to work for him. And so I had the opportunity to work with the Altman Nursery Company when it was small. And we grew together into, now they're one of the largest nurseries probably in the world.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of that. And then I went back to work for myself again and developed my nursery. I got married to a really lovely, beautiful, smart gal whose name is Jackie, and we started this nursery. We found this ground here. We rented our first acre of this property and started with what I was growing at the time was daylilies.
Okay.
And we just filled the place with fields of daylilies. It was, in fact, we named it Daylily Hill.
Okay.
And it just looked like going to Carlsbad to the fields of flowers. I mean, we had 20 acres, and it was literally filled up with daylilies planted in the ground, or it actually, from a previous operation, was just covered with mulch. So we just filled it in with daylilies. And then I was the king of daylilies for a lot of years, and we went wholesale and became quite successful. Then we came full circle after the Great Depression of 2008, and my friend Mr. Altman came and said, "You want to sell?" And yeah, 2008 was a rough year.
Yeah.
So I had that opportunity. So the Altman family owns this now, and I have the opportunity to still run it.
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys can watch, or you guys that are watching can tell, but Tom, you just have a wealth of knowledge that I want to dive into today and really just, be a student and ask you all these questions, because you've been doing this literally longer than I've been alive. So, yeah, I'm excited to.
Did he just say that?
I mean, it's just the truth, But yeah, I'm excited. So I'm excited to dive in. So, Tom, a lot of our viewers watching this they're maybe experienced, but I think the majority are just getting into this passion or hobby. And I always get a lot of questions about just plant care and plant rescue. So I'm asking an expert here, what would be your, I guess, number one tip when it comes to taking care of plants? Yeah, number one tips when it comes to taking care of plants.
Well, we like people to kill them. That works out really nice, because they'll come and buy a plant, and then they take it home and kill it. And then they come back and buy another one.
Yeah, that's... So that's number one, kill your plant, because you can come back and always buy more.
It's a circle of life, right? No, we get a lot of questions here. One of the first questions that comes in very often, people can contact us on our website. There's a email page that you can contact us. And one of the first questions that we get very frequently starts out with, "What plant is this?" And a lot of times I know.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't, but then I just lie, like we like to go with the botanical names, like side of the road is what the heck is this, That's the Latin. That's a good one. That's the Latin botanical name for it. And so we have a lot of fun with that. And the problem with identifying plants is I really am starting to feel like a loser these days, because now there's literally apps that you can go to and take a picture of it and ask that Google dude, and
do you
he'll
feel,
tell you.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but do you feel like sometimes with those apps, and because even I've uploaded a ton of photos to try to identify this plant, I feel like they're wrong all the times. Do you feel like that's your experience, or what are you seeing?
They're wrong sometimes, a good chunk of the time, but actually it's fairly useful. There's a lot of them that they can ID pretty well.
Nice.
Which again just makes me feel insufficient and have a complex about it. Sad.
No.
Getting old, being outdated. But I guess when we talk about care, you have different plant groups. Every plant group has a different care and a different need. And I think people are used to the care and culture of most normal plants, vegetables, green plants, things like that. I think where we run into the most common confusion is with cactus and succulents, because there's misnomers about it. For example, just the watering. Okay, some people go, "Oh, well, they're succulent plants, they're drought tolerant," or, "Oh, they're cactus, they're from the desert, and so don't ever water them." Okay, let's just start out with that. Cactus and succulents are all cactus, by the way, are succulents, but not all succulents are cactus. But a succulent is any plant that can store water in one of its tissues. It might be a leaf tissue, a stem tissue.
Wow, that's a hot tip right there.
Or even a root tissue, okay? So that's what defines a succulent. So now you can see why all cactus are succulents.
Yeah.
Okay? So they don't, it's not that they don't need water, but it means that they have the ability to accumulate water and then store it for a while if need be. So if you like have a beautiful succulent bonsai, we do that. We make perfect, beautiful specimen bonsais of some succulents. And if it's a regular bonsai that's done like say in Japan or in Asia somewhere, it might be 600-700 years old, ancient, you know, that's the whole art of bonsai. And so you can just imagine you're this family that's handed down for generations, this beautiful specimen bonsai is just priceless. It's worth thousands of dollars. It's gone from one generation to the next, and it's handed down, and they cherish it and care for it and nurture it every day. And then they go on vacation, and the pimple-nosed kid forgets to water it for just 2 days, and it's dead. Okay?
Wow.
So a succulent bonsai, and this is true of what succulents...
Why did he have to have a pimple nose, though?
Well, that's the kid you that's the kid you hire to take care of stuff while you're gone. So the beauty of a succulent plant is, yeah, it loves lushness to a degree and a lot of the normal things that normal plants love, but it can endure. So say it was that same 600-year-old specimen, and it's a succulent elephant's food plant that's been carved into beautiful sculptured bonsai. Same scenario, handed down a generation or two, go on vacation for, say, 3-4 months.
Okay.
Pimple-nosed kid gets into drugs, doesn't care anymore, never shows up, come back, still fine.
Wow.
That's the big difference.
Okay.
Is they can endure. But if you want to grow a succulent plant or even a cactus plant, you know, the key is simply it likes water, but allow the soil to dry in between waterings. Now in the summertime in a small pot, that could be every couple or few days in the summertime. It's not going to die if you don't, but if you want the lush look and the beautiful color that we have, then it's going to be fairly frequent watering. And when you water it thoroughly. You know, even cactus, a lot of cactus have the monsoon season in the summertime, like in Arizona. They get thunderstorms every day for a week or two, you know, and flooding and everything. They love it. They're soaking up the water and storing it. Okay? So if you want to have a healthy plant regarding water, then that's the cycle. They like water. Some don't like, some like to be less watered during a dormant season, like some cactus are dormant in the wintertime. Even some succulents have different dormant seasons. Then you lay off a lot more. But still, it's a good watering. Allow a dry interval. And that just means once the soil in the pot is dry, you can water it again.
Yeah. Tom, how do you know if you've killed a cactus or a succulent? I know they're different, but I feel like a lot of the times when I get questions online, they think that they already killed it, and I'm looking at it and I think that it's far from dead, and maybe it needs a little bit of care to bring it back to life. But what are some like key signs to know that like, hey, your plant is totally dead and you should get a new one, or if you should still try to take care of it?
Well, I think sometimes it just kind of falls in between the autopsy and then the note in Facebook where you're invited to the memorial service.
That's a good one. We got jokes for days around here, so stick around.
Well, you know, I think people can pretty well get a good look at their plant and know that that's it. That's history. But before we take ourselves to dead, let's go back to the other real cultural misnomer in cactus and succulents, which is fertilization.
Okay.
Okay, fertilizer. So cactus and succulents need fertilizing. And the reason that this is even more so than regular trees and shrubs, for example, is most cactus and succulents have very shallow roots. And so they can't send roots, you know, far away and into the ground. In fact, this root that's right in front of us is from a pine tree that's 50 feet away from us.
Wow.
Okay, so it can go around mining nutrients and get what it needs. But cactus and succulents characteristically have very shallow root systems. And so, especially when we're growing them in pots, but even in the garden, if we're not doing supplemental fertilizer, they're not getting it. And again, they can turn yellow, stop growing, lose luster. They don't die, but they might just sit there forever doing nothing.
Okay.
And so mainly it's in our soils, when you're talking about in the ground, in the landscape, it's just all about the nitrogen. You want to be supplementing with nitrogen.
Okay.
I mean, there's other things that are probably mixed with fertilizers these days that you'll get, but it's all about the nitrogen. When you're growing in a container, you just want to fertilize fairly regularly with like a houseplant fertilizer or a fish emulsion natural organic fertilizer. And you do that frequently, like once every month or two.
Oh, really?
And that way they'll grow fast, they'll have beautiful color, they'll flower, makes all the difference in the world. I've gone to landscapes where I've seen a cactus landscape, for example, that somebody planted like 6-7 years ago. And it's just like, it's creepy. It's all yellow. Everything's yellow and it's like hanging like claws and it's like really scary. It's good for the block of Halloween, but, and it just looks like creepy. And all of these plants should have lush, vibrant growth and colors and stuff like that. So that's really the other key that people get wrong.
Okay.
And, other than that, soil, less organics. Our soil that we manufacture here at the nursery has a lot more mineral component to it, which is like sand, except sand is really heavy. So our sand is actually ground volcanic rock, which is lighter weight. And so that makes a really nice soil also, but more mineral, less organic. So if a person is at home, doesn't have access, say, to our soil, then you just, add more sand or more dirt. You can just even say more dirt. And then you mix it with the organics.
Later in this interview, would it be okay if we actually go checked out some of the soil just to show the audience?
Well, you're like my doctor that I went to one day and I told him I had piles. So yeah, we could look at my piles.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you'd ask because my piles have a body temperature. We do our own composting and everything. It's pretty exciting.
Oh, nice.
And so they digest. They're really more creature than they are dirt. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Cool. And then also, before I forget, we talked a lot about fertilizer. Do you have like a recommendation? Like, do you just go to the store? Like, how do you know what to pick up?
Well, no, you don't go to a store. You come to Waterwise Botanicals.
What?
What's up with you, dude?
Yeah. What am I saying?
So, it's just like people say, oh, well, I want my this or that to be organic. Well, maybe some people went to chemistry class or not, but even everything organic is simply chemistry. I mean, it's not like we breathe organic oxygen. If you could get oxygen that was produced by cracking petroleum oil, and it's still oxygen, and it'll still sustain your life. So I don't really try to get into all that. People have their own favorite flavors and stuff, but really it all boils down to nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Okay.
And in our soils, our native soils in Southern California and most Western soils are quite rich in phosphorus and potassium because we don't have a lot of rain. And so it's not washed out, not leached out. And it also, because we're slightly alkaline, it literally is more chemically locked into the soil. But nitrogen dissolves like sugar in the soil.
Okay.
And so when you have a lot of rains or when you're frequently watering your potted plant, you're just rinsing the nitrogen right out. So really it's all about nitrogen. Almost every fertilizer that you buy, whether it's organic or more granular or something like that, has a little breakdown. And it just tells you, first number is nitrogen, next one is phosphorus, next one's potassium. And less is good on potassium and phosphorus, not so important. Nitrogen is the one that gets washed away that you really need to be replacing. And that's really how that breaks down.
Got it. Okay. So Tom, obviously nowadays there's a ton of information online. Some of it is very valuable and true, and some of it is just flat out wrong. What's been the biggest lie on the internet that you've seen that just absolutely drives you crazy that you want to like warn people about?
It's a dangerous place to go on the internet.
Sure is.
I don't know. It's kind of an equal balancing lie. A lot of people think Cactus are Republicans and others think they're Democrats. Really confuses me. I don't know. That's kind of hard. I think that we covered it pretty much in the carrot and culture.
Yeah.
That's really where most of the confusion lies. There's always, there's a little bit of confusion that takes place in the naming aspect. There's professional namers that are always working with the taxonomy, which is the scientific names, the botanical names. And for some reason, these people hide in places unknown to man and just check out the names, and sometimes they change them and stuff. That actually creates a lot of confusion. Just a great example is for years, decades, the group of cactus called Trichocereus, now all of a sudden they're calling them all Echinopsis. And we're talking about plants that grow towering to little small clumping plants. And that confuses me. So I don't know.
That's confused me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really where I see most of the confusion in names. So I don't know. You just kind of, if you go and you meet a person that you don't know, and you get to know them, it's kind of more that you got to know them than what their name is. You know, like, is that right, Bob?
Right.
So I don't know. That's really kind of the only thing. What I really enjoy about people on the internet with cactus and succulents and plants in general is just the enthusiasm. This is a plant group that is literally contains in succulents alone probably 10,000, 12,000 different species.
Wow.
And succulents are encompass almost every plant group in the world. There's succulent daisies, succulent grapes, succulent geraniums. I mean, you just go on down the list. There's almost a succulent representative of almost every plant group there is.
Wow.
Cactus are literally a plant group that's right from the very large grouping are in, I think, the daisy family, and then they work their way down into, the lower subclasses, but it's all one family. And interestingly enough about cactus is cactus are native only to the New World, which would be North and South America.
Okay.
So when you see pictures of, I like to watch World War II pictures in North Africa, and they got all these agaves growing all over the place, and the punchias. And actually they probably are, because so many were imported, to the old world, but they're not native there.
Wow.
Australia actually had a terrible time with prickly pears being imported to Australia, thinking it would be good cattle fodder, and instead it became a horribly invasive species.
Oh, wow.
But all cactus, the true cactus family, can only be found in North America and South America.
Wow.
In the desert, right?
Wrong. Oh, okay.
Don't nod your head at that. Here's the thing. My little prickly pear cactus, the porcupine cactus that I started out with as a kid, I've found growing at 8,000 feet in the eastern Sierra Nevada.
Wow.
Along streams of aspen and brook trout and lodgepole pines. And a lodgepole pine is a high elevation pine. 8,000 feet, frequently covered with up to 4, 6, 8 feet of snow.
Wow.
In the wintertime.
Sounds
and
like
those
it
little
belong.
Yeah, those little cactus are just growing in the rocks and nooks and crannies, right along with the wildflowers and stuff. There's native cactus to most of the states, continental states of the United States.
Wow.
So there's very few that don't have a native cactus. There's a native little prickly pear that grows on the beaches in New York.
Really?
There are native cactus that grow in central Canada.
Wow.
Where it gets to be 20, 30, 40 degrees below zero.
Wow.
So it's a tremendous family. And then, of course, that ranges all the way from Canada down to the southern tip of South America, Peru, Chile, Bolivia. I don't know if they're in Bolivia, but I like to say Bolivia.
So, Tom, if you wanted to find one of those cactus or collect them yourselves, how would you do that?
Don't tell anybody or you'll go to jail. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there are native cactus in the jungles. What's the Christmas cactus?
What is it?
It's a true cactus growing up in the arboreal canopy along with orchids and ferns and bromeliads. And what are epiphyllums? Same thing. They're up in the jungle trees and stuff. So from every environment. Is that crazy or what?
That is wild. Wild, wild stuff.
Yeah, so these days pretty much collecting cactus as possibly you're referring to, but you shouldn't because you'll get in big trouble, like out of nature, is not a thing to do. First of all, it's rarely successful for the plant that you dug up and pillaged out of the desert, because those habitats, especially in our Southwest, are very extreme, and so they just don't do well in most cultivated environments. And second of all, you just get in a freaking lot of trouble. You get more trouble digging up a cactus out of some national park or something like that than if you were to kill your wife. You're going to have more prison time. So I really don't recommend that.
So you're pretty much what you're saying is the only way to get a beautiful plant is from Waterwise or Cactus Warehouse.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And those are just the result of decades of collecting and putting into cultivation really fascinating and myriad varieties. I mean, you're looking at cactus, for example, that have just every kind of form that by itself is super fascinating. Some of our cactus are most beautiful because of just the aura that they have of their spines in the sunlight in the morning or in the evening as it catches it. And then, of course, some of the world's most beautiful and largest flowers are on cactus. We just have been having in and off a bloom lately of our Tricolobivia hybrids and Trichonopsis hybrids, and we have flowers this big around, and they're covered. When they're in bloom, it looks like the tulip fields of Holland.
Wow.
But it's prickly underneath.
Yeah.
You know, don't go running barefoot in that. You make sure you wear your wooden gloves.
Yeah.
You know? So that's kind of the diversity. And then there's a huge amount of hybridization and selection that's taking place these days. So we, like many people and companies like yourself, individuals, are always finding the rare and the fascinating and the unusual, and we have that available to the public. And that's all fair game. That's safe. You're not going to do prison time for that.
Yep.
Unless you don't pay your taxes.
So, Tom, a lot of our viewers have cactus and succulents, and they keep them indoors. So tell us about what if you're, taking care of plants indoors? What should you know?
Well, you're really wrong there, because they don't keep them indoors. Here's the problem. Cactus and succulents indoors, for the most part, unless you have like a hot, sunny windowsill right at the window, at the glass, they stretch. They don't get enough of the beneficial rays of the sunlight. You can take almost any of our succulents. My wife just did a real cute little planter. We're always coming up with these great little gift planters and stuff like that. And she brought one home to just show me, look how great this is in this funny little planter and stuff. I think it was like a troll with where you plant the plants in its head or something like that. And we just set it on the counter, and it wasn't even a week, and all the succulents were just all stretched out. And the word is etiolated. That's the scientific word, etiolation. But stretched out's really a lot easier way of saying it. And they get weak and spindly and scrawny, and they don't hold up, and they get weird looking. So unless you have like a greenhouse kind of environment, an atrium kind of environment, or, right at the sunny windowsill, it's not going to work. At the sunny windowsill, it also won't work if you have tinted windows, because tinted windows take out all of the beneficial rays. But you know what? Our whole demographic is kind of changing. There's so many of us, well, not us, I'm the old guys, but of you young people that can't afford a home where you have a yard and a landscape and stuff like that. People are being squeezed into smaller and smaller spaces. And yet we have this intense need for a connection with living things. It's just like people now have dogs and cats instead of children.
Yeah.
And you just want to watch something grow. You want to have life in your life. And so what the sanctuary is becoming now is more like porches and patios.
Yeah.
And in porches and patios, boy, that's where cactus and succulents rock.
Okay.
Because you got a lot of partial sun. If you just even get a couple of direct sun in the couple of hours of direct sun in the morning or in the afternoon, that's fine. That's considered direct sun. And then a lot of them are shade areas, and we have varieties of succulents and of course other plants that really adapt to that well also. So we're just like the perfect plant group for these small, compressed environments. And that's what I really take a lot of joy in now, is because, like I said, people are in the city. We're stacking them up in condos and apartments, and that's a rough way to go. You can only have so many goldfish in the house, and you got to have some plants that you can nurture. I always loved watching Karate Kid, because Mr. Miyagi, he didn't have a life of a lot of stress, but he still did this. Just imagine coming home after fighting traffic on the freeway, after your boss yelled at you, and you get home, and after putting gas in your tank, you get home and you just take care of your plant. The bonsai is really cool for that, but you're just taking care of your plants. You're kind of looking in, oh, do I have a little creature that's eating my plant? Oh, do I need to pick off a little dead flower? Oh, there's a yellow leaf. Oh, I think I need to snip this here. It's just like nurturing. And you just get this peaceful, calming, relaxing feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what's really special about growing plants and having plants for that small porches and patios environment.
I love that.
And that's where it works.
Yeah. When it comes to the etiolation or the stretching, just to go easy, Are there any fixes to that? Like if it stretched out too much, can you just like cut it off and then it like restart that process?
Only if you get it back out in the sun.
Okay.
And people say, well, what if I have artificial light? You know, all the fluorescent lights and
Like the
stuff like
grow
that.
lights and stuff?
I hope you're not growing that stuff in your house.
No, we got everything outside
Okay.
in the full sun.
There's a lot of people who use a lot of artificial lights in the house, but we won't talk about that. It doesn't seem to help that much with cactus and succulents. Some plants do okay, and they even can flourish a little bit better, but it just doesn't seem like we get enough good beneficial light from the natural sun's rays that make it look good. So to that respect, I think you really need to find that outdoor area. Now, a lot of people live in colder climates.
Yeah, what do you do?
When we were selling all those plants from Heinz to the East Coast, those people are crazy. They'd spend, in the 70s, they'd spend $75 on a jade plant. And that became a member of the family. And so when it got cold, they would bring it indoors. They'd cut way back on the water so its growth rate wasn't trying to be fast. They'd try to put it by a window. They would put it under artificial light and whatever. And everybody just holds their breath till spring, and then they get it back out on the patio. And then a lot of garden atrium-like spaces started being built and applied, because if you have enough room to do that, and even in a little condo, like if you have a townhome or a condo and you just have that little area in the backyard, there's some ways that you can build a little bit of greenhouse over it. And that's really joyous. I mean, you walk in there, you got your plants, it's kind of humid. It's that looks like a florist greenhouse like you see on TV. You have your pet alligator because it's a little tropical, you know, some chameleons, the lizards, you know, just a whole little life zone in your greenhouse. That's kind of a lot of fun too.
Nice. So to kind of recap, if you're in an area that gets colder, they do great on porches. So get them out in the sun, and in the colder months, bring them inside. If you have some sort of like the privilege of like a greenhouse, that's best case scenario. If not, by a window. Any tips on when it's springtime again? Do you have to like watch out for anything as you
just go easy?
What do you mean by that?
Just like you, well, not you, you got pretty good skin. But if I stay in all winter and I go out to the beach the first day, I get a bad sunburn. So yeah, you kind of got to ease stuff back out into the sun. Now, the flip side of that is, especially in cacti, we have and specialize in a lot of cold hardy varieties. Beautiful flowering cactus that are cold hardy down to the single digits, some down to sub-zero digits.
Wow.
With beautiful flowers, and a lot kind of in like the Texas range where they get an occasional hard freeze and then it's kind of hot most of the time. We've got cactus that'll endure that snap down to the low teens and then they're back. We have such a range of varieties, and I know you carry those as well. I know that because you get them from us. And so mail order is available in that respect also. And it's a great opportunity for people to get the addiction that I had when I was young and, you know, start really making a mess of their lives, you know, in colder climates.
Nice. I love it. We got to go check those out.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got plenty to take a look at today.
Cool.
Unfortunately, this spring bloom season was really freaked out by a very early hot spell we had this year. And then the weather's kind of been off and on. So we have days where we're fully in bloom and days where there's nothing going on. You timed it perfectly. You came when nothing's going on, per se. But we'll be able to find some things. Cool.
So Tom, you've been in this industry for a while now. What are you looking forward to the most, like, let's say over the course of the next 5 years?
Well, retirement.
I like that.
I don't see that in the cards. You know, it's not like nurserymen have a big pension or anything. So I'll probably keep on with it. I actually love what I do. I actually tell people I'm retired because I was tired yesterday and I'm tired again today. But no, I enjoy it. And I have to say, we have this beautiful location and people love coming here. You know, we have an event once a month, people with their families and their dogs and everything just come and enjoy the place, and they enjoy a food truck. They enjoy, you know, different things that go on.
When's that?
Well, I tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. But the point being is that to me, it's more the people even than the plants. I love people who love this stuff.
Yeah, me too.
And when we attract people who come and visit the nursery, they're the nicest people. and they bring their dogs and their kids. The kids light up for a brief period of time. They're not staring at their phone.
Oh my God.
And they're staring at our tropical fish in one of our ponds or our giant catfish in the other pond. It's just, it's the beginning of what was the beginning of the passion in me when I was a boy. And that is that life and growing things and raising things is so fascinating and so enriching. And then it also brings into that really a lot of good work with your hands.
Yeah.
You know, we have so little of that these days. I mean, I walk around and I see people with these massive finger muscles. What up? And then they spend a buku money to try to go to the gym and get some muscles elsewhere. Well, if you have any kind of space or land, gardening is great exercise.
It is,
you know,
honestly.
And so we're mixing soil, we're planting, we're digging, and again, it's very organic. It brings you back to that connection with that's not so AI, that's not so technology, and it's a real need.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more and more of a need. People are literally handicapped about natural life and natural things. And so, you know, as I get older, I just love introducing people back to that exposure.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to just connect again. You got flowers here, you got weird looking shapes of cactus there. And you know, like for the guys, there's macho cactus or maybe you're not such a macho guy. Okay, we have pretty flowers, like whatever. Okay, you know, we're just everything for everybody because it's just plants and it's just natural and it's so connective.
Yeah.
Over and over, that's just what it is. You know, I'm a professional fine artist and I paint a lot and I do paintings and it's the same thing. It's whatever I do is non-technology. And that's what's really special to me. And as I get older, non-technology is more rewarding because I can't do technology.
No, I can relate. I spend a lot of the times, you know, behind the computer, and when I get to go outside, and as cheesy as it is, but to be one with nature,
Yeah.
I just feel like everybody deserves at least 30 minutes to an hour to go outside, touch grass, look at a plant, and just, you know, relax. I think it's good for the mind. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I can see it in you.
Yeah, thank
You know,
you.
it's just, there is. It kind of calms people down,
Yeah.
brings some calmness.
Well, on that note, Tom, why don't we go around the nursery and take a look at some cool stuff and talk about it?
So the nursery's pretty big.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're almost 20 acres.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of people come and do their walk. And if you do the full loop, it's a half mile.
Oh, really?
So you could do 2 laps and you put in your mile for the day. The dog brings their human, they do their walk.
If you guys enjoyed that video, one, thank you. And I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to stick around for part 2. We're actually gonna go walk the nursery and Tom's gonna tell us a bunch of cool stuff about this nursery. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, and peace.